What is up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and we are doing our final team of the 4 teams in the grand finals. We are going to cover the San Francisco Shock today in our final preview. But first, before we get into that, I would like to thank everybody for joining me. Thank you, everybody on YouTube. Thanks for all of your support. It's greatly appreciated. All of you guys that stuck around for the last couple of years, thank you very much. Everybody that's new, that's just tuning in right now, hit a like, hit a subscribe. I do Overwatch League content multiple times a week. This is our final preview video going on right now. But please hit a like, hit a subscribe if you're new. Hit the alert bell so you know when I got content coming up. Now, let's dive into our final team. We've talked Seoul, we've talked Shanghai, we've talked Philly, and now we're talking our last team in the grand finals. We are talking San Francisco Shock. All right, the Shock picked up where they left off last year. What else is there really to say about this team and the way they performed since late stage 1 of last year? Yeah, it was a different meta, different type of game that was going on, but they have most of the same pieces. They started off the year just doing what they do, and then, of course, we have the COVID thing. It's a caveat in every video right now, but it is what it is. Out of the gates, they were playing really well. You know, they have all of the guys on this team from last year. They had a couple of additions, some we hadn't seen quite yet, but had heard a little bit about from, you know, Super and a couple other people, like guys like Ons. The COVID thing happens, things start going, and then their quote-unquote star player, MVP last year, Sinatra, leaves, and people start doing the except for me and Kel at the time on this channel. We did not think they were going to miss a beat, and they didn't. They continue to show their dominance, and they do it in so many different ways. They have one of the best tank lines. They have one of the best support lines. They have a bevy of DPS players that can play every hero, and they also have the best coach in the league in Krusty. So this year, it was not much different. They were the juggernaut. They did lose a couple times. I mean, it's not like they didn't lose. They lost to Paris in the Summer Showdown during the Genji meta. They looked a little suspect during that. They didn't have a Genji player necessarily. The only hero they didn't have covered at a god tier level almost. You know, they also traded Architect away to the Hangzhou Spark. But the thing is, with this team and the coaching staff that they have, they managed like they were struggling. They're the equivalent to any dynasty in any sport you want to cover. The Bulls in the 90s, the Yankees in the late 90s, the Patriots, going back way back to the Celtics in the 50s and 60s, Steelers in the 70s in football, the 49ers, whatever you want to quantify their greatness and the way this team plays, they play like those teams. Every year starts off new. It doesn't matter that they won the championship last year. It's what is going on this year that matters. They have the players that are buying into the system that Krusty has put out there. They have guys that are motivated every game that they play. Yeah, they could take games off. Do they? Yeah, probably they pull back the reins a little bit or screw around when they're playing teams like Boston or Vancouver after all of the stuff happened where they had the new roster. But they still managed to win. I mean, there were meme games where they had, you know, Super playing Genji. Did he play good? Not necessarily. Did he play bad? No. Did they lose? No. The thing with this team is the sign of a great team, a dynasty team, a team that is of the ages. I'm waxing on about San Francisco. Some of you guys might think I'm a Shock fan, but I'm not a Shock fan. I admire greatness no matter what it is. Unless it's the Raiders or the Red Sox, they can go to hell. And you throw the Chiefs in there too, and maybe Golden State. Okay, regular sports aside, and my bias towards certain teams and why I hate them and all that stuff, they use losses as fuel, is what I'm getting at. motivation, and learning experiences that make them a better team. They are one of the best teams on the rebound that I've ever seen in any sport, regardless of what it is. When they lose, you know they're going to win the next game because they ground out. And it's not just the coaches. It is the players on this team. They are dedicated to this system. The dedication to winning and all of the cliches, this team buys into it. And they have the pieces to do pretty much whatever they want. And they've done that throughout the year. We saw guys come in like Ons, who is someone that they found, no one that we knew a ton about. He comes in and solves one of the problems that they had, and that was a long-range hit scan guy. Yeah, Architect was okay. Striker's okay. But they got another god. So they now on this team, you have a Reinhardt god. You have another main tank that can play every other tank in Smurf at a high level. You have Moth. You have Twilight and Violet. Then you have Striker, best tracer in the league. You have Ons, potentially the best Widowmaker player in the league. You have Rascal, the most versatile player in the league. He's libero, but can play everything really well, not just good. It's just insane, the amount of riches this team has as far as players go. But their mentality also is something that, like I had just said, they are dedicated to this system. They're dedicated to, like they say in football, the Patriot way, the shock way. They're into it. In crust, they trust. I mean, they are down. But this team they won 2 of the tournaments in NA. They could have won one other, but Paris just had them that day. And they just couldn't compete with Sparkle and the Genji thing. But what I'm getting at is they're probably the best team in the league. Them in Shanghai. Philadelphia, sure, you can throw them in there too. I mean, we started to go down the roster, so let's talk about their roster really quick. Just go over it. Tank line. Main tank, you're going to see Super and Smurf. Super is going to be in on Reinhardt maps or some other maps where they decide that they need to play him instead of Smurf. Smurf takes care of business with the Orisa, the Winston, and potentially Ball if you're using that. Then you have the best off-tank in the league in Choi Hyobin. I mean, it's slightly debatable, but he's the glue for this tank line. He fills the gaps, plugs the holes. He's the crack filler. When there's mistakes made, he seems to be the guy that takes over and makes you forget about them by making insane plays. Whether it's Sigma, Diva, Roadhog, whatever the guy gets on, he is just at such a high level. He should have been the MVP last year. So now you go into the support line. You have Moth, probably one of the best Lucios in the league. Great Mercy, fantastic shot caller. He's the level head that keeps the plane in the air, so to speak, with the shock when he's out there. You literally have 2 of the best flex supports in the league in Twilight and Violet. And they run double flex support sometimes where you have Zen, Anna, and some of the other stuff they were doing, Baptiste and Anna. You're running both of these guys in there. They're just full of riches on this line as well. I really don't know what else to say about other than that they're almost meta-proof as far as supports go. DPS-wise, you have Striker, you have Ons, you have Rascal, and their most recent addition, Tayo. So pretty much they're covering everything in every aspect of the game. They have a diverse tank line. They have a diverse support line, a diverse DPS line. Pretty much anything that you want to play, they can play it. They can plug guys in. Yes, they've had trouble in certain metas. They didn't have a Genji during that brief Genji meta that we had going on in the middle of the season there. But the guys that they could run on it other than the Super Experiment, Rascal, and then they brought in Tayo. Those guys ran it really well. They're better than average. They just cover everything on these DPS lines. Now, let's talk about their strengths. Pretty much everything that they do is a strength. They are, maybe outside of Shanghai, the team with the best team cohesion and team synchronicity, whatever you want to call it, in the league. Can switch guys in and out at different positions, which most teams, and for me, even mentally, I don't like when teams do that, but this team is different. They can put the pieces in, and it doesn't matter what happens. They have incredible synergy, cohesion, and all that. That is one of their greatest strengths. One of their other strengths is their mental game. They are the best mental team in Overwatch League, and that's because of another strength, the best coach in the league, which is Krusty. Yeah, we could talk about Coach of the Year and all that. Sometimes the best coaches don't get named Coach of the Year because everybody knows where they are. Moon got named Coach of the Year this year. I thought Packing 10 did a great job. But the best coach in the league is Krusty. And what he does is he takes these pieces, he coaches them up, and they know what to do in every situation. And he knows who to put in every situation. And when those guys go in, they know their job. One of the other things that they have is the fact that they are confident. They're not cocky all of the time. I'm going to throw that caveat in there. There are times when, yes, they play cocky. They're really good, so that's going to happen. They're confident, and the one other thing that I'm going to add in here, and these are all team synergistic things, they have individual players that are fantastic, great, whatever accolade you want to throw at these individual players. But the thing is the sum of their parts is amazing. The way they play together is their main strength. I'm going to go with aggression. They come at you. It doesn't matter if you're Boston, Philadelphia, Florida, Shanghai, they are coming after you. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the season, in the finals, in a tournament, whatever it is. This team comes out and they are out for blood and they are going to take it to you. You have to play their game. There are rare occasions when that doesn't work. They lost to Paris in the one tournament where Genji was meta and they had the best Genji in the league in Sparkle. And then Philadelphia got them really bad the one time they 3-0'd him. That was Philly being just pissed off about losing, I think, and San Francisco working on other things. I just didn't feel like San Francisco was as fully invested for a change for them. They come at you with aggression. It's just, you're playing our game and you have to deal with that. We're going to do what we do. It's very hard to get them out of that mentality. Not only are they aggressive, they're smart and aggressive. That's the one thing. Going back to the mentality. Now, one of the weaknesses, and this team doesn't have many of them. One of the things is they don't have a really high-level Sombra player. This is getting down to, brass tacks, whatever you want to call the cliche, to get into some of the minor things that they don't have. They're not as good as some of the other teams at playing Sombra, especially the two teams from APAC in Seoul and Shanghai, and definitely Philadelphia with Hisu. They can't compete on the Sombra comps with them. That's one of their biggest weaknesses. I'm also going to go back to one of the strengths that I saw them having, and that's their aggression. You can use that against them, and some teams have done that with a little bit of success, but right now, it's really hard to do, but you can use that aggression and catch them out occasionally and throw them off their game. Sometimes you can get these guys to tilt a little bit. A couple of them, Rascal, Super, if he's in there. A couple of the guys, Violet, they can get a little agitated and off their game, play their aggression against them. I think that's one of the things that a couple of these teams can do, especially Shanghai. I think they could do that. I think Philadelphia knows what they're going to do. They can do that, but sometimes they don't execute. Those are the couple of weaknesses I see in the Shock. What's their key to winning? Their key to winning is, I could use the cliche of do what you do. Their key to winning is making the other teams play to what they want them to play. Using their aggression, using their high-skilled players, using guys like Stryker and Ons, and using these guys with high mechanical skill to just take over matches like they've done in the past. Striker is the best tracer in the league. Ons is probably one of, if not the best Widowmaker in the league in-game. That's been playing a lot. You have a couple of guys that can just do insane stuff, especially when you get into some of these maps that you're going to have to run and potential comps where they can just do things, especially guys like Striker on Tracer, where he just can take over a match no matter what the meta is, because he's so good, minus like the GOAT's shit last year. He could take over a match on Tracer. It's very, very hard to beat them. It doesn't happen very often. I mean, Paris did it a little bit, but that was Nanoblading Genji game over kind of thing when Genji was all buffed up. Now, who am I going to watch, or who you should watch, or what are we watching with this team? For me, anytime Striker gets on Tracer, I'm watching that. That's much watch Overwatch. He's the best Tracer in the league, and I just want to watch him play. Also, one of the other things I would watch is how aggressive their tanks are and how they dictate the match. They seem to be, yes, Fearless and Void, I think, are the best tank duo in this grand finals right now. But as far as the way that Choi Hyobin and Smurf or Super take over a match and just create space and do all the things that tanks should do and beyond is something that's just a masterclass in how to run a tank line. Yeah, watching a tank line isn't the most captivating thing on the planet. The way this team's front line operates, it's just unbelievably cool to watch their synergy and just how they can take over fights and matches and create space for these DPS guys. And obviously, finally, I've included every fantastic Widowmaker. Ons. Get Ons in there, and watching him click heads is just unbelievable. He does it on Ashe and Widowmaker and whatever else he's been playing. He's been playing a little bit of Sombra and stuff like that. That's not as exciting for me. Get him on something where he can just shoot people's brains out. I just want to see that all day long. That's going to wrap up my thoughts on the Shock. That's going to do it for our team previews. Next up, we're going to do our prediction show where I go through my bracket. We're not going to show my bracket from the beginning of the playoffs because two of the teams aren't in there that I had, that being the Mayhem and the Guangzhou Charge. Yes, I went fanboy. I had the Mayhem in the NA bracket. That's going to do it, guys. Thanks to all you guys that have tuned in. Greatly appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. I have a lot of passion for this game and this league, and for me, it's just a blast to be able to talk to you guys and, get you guys started in our conversation where we can just talk about Overwatch League and just keep it going. Hope you enjoyed this one. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody out there, stay safe. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you on the next one.